Alright everyone, welcome back to the Rugby League History channel. I hope you're all well on this Wednesday, wherever you may be in the world. Tonight's video I'm coming at you with another retro season review, and tonight I'm going to be doing Canterbury-Bankstown in 2004. Before I get into that video, if you've not yet subscribed, please consider subscribing. It greatly helps out the channel. I'm currently over 700 subscribers at the moment. My next goal is to get to 750. Thanks to everyone that's recently joined, and thanks to everyone that supported me from the very beginning. So getting into the 2004 Canterbury-Bankstown season, the club, as we know, had that issue with the salary cap. In 2002, they finished with the wooden spoon. 2003, they bounced back in some style. They made the preliminary final before losing to Eastern Suburbs / Sydney Roosters. Going into 2004, a lot was expected of the club. Could they go one better? Unfortunately, before the season began, they had some issues around alleged things that happened in Coffs Harbour. I'm not going to go into that. I'm pretty sure 99% of the audience knows what may or may not have happened up in Coffs Harbour there, so I'm going to skip over that and just go into the season. So going into the season, they finished second, and they played 24 matches that year. They had 9 wins, 5 losses and 2 byes, which meant that they finished on 42 competition points, which they were actually equal faced. They come second, they were equal faced with the Sydney Roosters, but they come second due to for and against. I think Eastern Suburbs had about 80 points that they were better off than Canterbury. The top point scorer for the year for Canterbury that year was Hazem El Masri. He got 342 points that year, very, very impressive. Willie Tonga, the new recruit from Parramatta, he got 18 tries. The biggest crowd that they got for the year was 42,717 against arch rivals Parramatta, and the average crowd for the year was a very healthy 9,428. So they kicked off the year and they played against Parramatta at Stadium Australia there, and they thrashed them 48 points to 14, and I think it was also the debut match for Sonny Bill Williams as well. The next week they defeated Cronulla, and then in round 3, I remember this game quite well. It's probably one of the most darkest days in the club's history as far as I'm concerned. They were waxed 35-0 by the Sydney Roosters at the Sydney Football Stadium there. There was crowd trouble. I think there was a few bombs and fireworks that went off in the ground. Some of the Canterbury supporters were given hefty fines and hefty bans. It was a very ugly night for the game of rugby league, and it's probably, I think, one of the worst losses and one of the darkest days for Canterbury in their entire history. But they bounced back. They had 4 wins in a row after that sore point. Then they had a loss, then they had a win. And then the 2 losses that they had after they had the win were quite bad in my opinion. They lost 30 points to 26 against West Tigers. And then they were whacked 40 points to 29 against Penrith. But then after that, something clicked in the club, and they ended up winning 10 matches after that, 10 games in a row. And then to finish the year, they had a 52-6 win over Newcastle, and they thrashed New Zealand 54 points to 10, which, as I said just earlier, meant that they finished in second place. Now, throughout the year, this team could score points, and on 3 occasions they got over 50 points, and on 4 occasions they scored 40 points or more. And on 3 other occasions, they got into the high 30s. So this club could score points when they had to. Going into the first week, though, was under the old McIntyre system. Canterbury, who'd come second, had to play against North Queensland, who come in 7th place. Back in those days, the McIntyre system was a bit of a mismatch. North Queensland weren't given much of a chance. I remember watching the game. North Queensland, for the first 9 years of their existence, have been a bit of a basket case. They weren't very successful. This was their first ever finals appearance, and they come up against a very highly fancied Canterbury side. And what happened is, all I can see is, I remember after the full-time siren, when I was watching the game, and I went, what the fuck? I mean, what the fuck just happened in this game? North Queensland ended up upsetting Canterbury 30 points to 22 there at Stadium Australia, which meant that Canterbury had to go into a sudden death match the following week against Melbourne, and they beat them 43 points to 18. So that brings a smile to my face. It's always good to see when Melbourne lose, and they gave Melbourne a thrashing on that occasion. And then in the preliminary final, they had a very tough match against the defending premiers Penrith, and they beat them 30 points to 14 to set up a grudge match and a grand final against the Sydney Roosters there at Stadium Australia. At half-time, Canterbury were down 13 points to 6. They're also without their captain and inspirational leader, Steve Price. I remember Jonathan Thurston took his place. He was on the bench there. And in the second half, Canterbury come back. They ended up winning 16 points to 13 to claim their 8th premiership. One thing about that grand final, though, that never gets a mention, I think, and other moments and other grand finals get lots of mentions, but this one doesn't, is with about 5 seconds to go, Eastern Suburbs threw the ball out to the right-hand side. Michael Crocker made a break. There was an overlap. All he had to do was catch and pass. And out of nowhere, Andrew Ryan grabs Michael Crocker around the bootlaces, tackles him. Michael Crocker spills the ball forward, and Canterbury win. If Andrew Ryan doesn't make that tackle, Eastern Suburbs, Michael Crocker, catch and pass, and one of the players on the outside would have raced away and scored on the full-time siren. So that gets missed, and I think if you've got some spare time, go and check that out, because it was a great tackle and a great moment in the grand final. So after the full-time siren and after the trophy was lifted, Willie Mason, he won the Clive Churchill Medal for the best on ground in that game. There was some big contributors towards the year. As I said, Hazem El Masri, 342 points. He was the season's top point scorer and the club's top point scorer. Matt Utai got 16 tries for the year. Andrew Ryan got 13 tries for the year, and Jamal Lowlesi, he also got 13 tries for the year. As of 2021, that was Canterbury's last premiership. They've made 2 grand finals since, but 2004, after all that had happened in 2002, and then with what happened in Coffs Harbour earlier in the season, 2004 was a great sort of redemption story for Canterbury, and I'm pretty sure their fans look back on that moment with a lot of joy. Anyways, everyone, that's my Canterbury-Bankstown Retro Season Review 2004. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a like. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so, and check out my social media pages on Facebook and Instagram. I'll put a link in the description for those. Anyways, everyone, this is Rugby League History signing off, and I'll catch you all later in the next video. Alright, tatty bye now.